In episode number 23 of this series called I Love This Album, I talked about Sacrifice, The Ones I Condemn, and I stated, very boldly and strongly stated, that it was the best Canadian metal album ever. I also mentioned that it was not quite the best Canadian album ever, that was going to come later. That day is today. And today's album that I'm going to talk about on episode number 29 of I Love This Album is Scenery and Fish by I, Mother Earth. And there it is right there. And yes, I will say that this is, however you like to say it, if it's the, some people don't like it if you say that it's the best because it sounds very definitive. So I will change to say it's my personal favorite. In case you didn't know that, it should be pretty obvious to anybody that all these things are opinions. So when I say something is the best, obviously I mean it's the best for me personally. There's no official ranking. So for me, Scenery and Fish, I, Mother Earth, the greatest, the best, my favorite, whatever you want to call it, Canadian album ever. And even that, do you say Canadian album or album by a Canadian band? I'm not sure. But it is my favorite, and it is, for me, the best. And I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to start right now. I started about it about 40 seconds ago. My history with I, Mother Earth. I've been, I, Mother Earth is from Toronto. I'm from Toronto. What a coincidence. And I started to hear about I, Mother Earth. Their first album, Dig, came out in 1993. I believe it was August 1993. And you have these weird memories of, I've mentioned this before, about things that are really stupid that you remember. If I remember correctly, I bought Dig the same day that I saw Anthrax in Toronto with White Zombie, and I think it was in August 1993. So I think Dig came out at some point. There was a lot of hype about I, Mother Earth before that. In the months or maybe a year before that, they were a local band in Toronto, and they got, in the metal world, they got a lot of coverage and a lot of attention. In Meat Magazine, if anybody remembers Meat Magazine, Meat was metal events around Toronto, or metal events around Toronto for you people that read right to left or left to right. So I heard about I, Mother Earth, and there was a lot of hype about them. I don't think I ever saw them at that point until, well, sometime later. But there was a lot of hype about I, Mother Earth, that they were going to be the next, whoever was really popular at the time. They never were, but they were very, very good. They had, and have, I guess, kind of a psychedelic sound. I would never call them metal, and I don't think too many people would call them metal. I would put them in the category maybe of Jane's Addiction. I've talked about this several times. The bands that they had guitar and they were heavy, but they were definitely not metal. But they did have that, they had distorted guitars and they were kind of aggressive. And so I would put, and I'm not saying that I, Mother Earth sounds like Jane's Addiction. I'm just saying that I would put them in that same category. So Dig came out, and I loved Dig. And then there was a long time. The Scenery and Fish didn't come out until, I guess it was the first part of 96. I remember hearing it in the spring, maybe around April or May 96. And I loved it. And they were also, now I wish I could remember the story. They had something to do with not just Van Halen, but specifically Eddie Van Halen. I don't know if Eddie was an I, Mother, I think he was a big I, Mother Earth fan. There was some kind of connection, and I should look into this, but I remember at the time, I think Jag Tana, who the guitarist and I guess the main guy, one of the two brothers in I, Mother Earth, there's Jag and Christian Tana, who are the bassist of I, Mother Earth. I think Jag writes all the music, and Christian writes the lyrics. The drummer writes the lyrics. And I don't know if it was Eddie Van Halen was, liked them or found out about them because they had the brothers that formed the nucleus of the band, the guitars and drummer, just like Eddie and Alex. And I think Eddie loaned Jag some guitars either for Scenery and Fish or Dig, or maybe an album that came after that. I can't remember, but there was some connection. Eddie Van Halen was a big supporter of I, Mother Earth. I do remember that. My concert history with I, Mother Earth, I saw them a couple of times, at least twice that I remember. Once was in, it was before Scenery and Fish came out, maybe in 94 94, 95. I saw them in Thorold, Ontario. And I'm sure I saw them somewhere else in Toronto around that time. And also I remember big statement here, another big statement. I saw them in 2015. I'd already moved to Mexico. I've lived in Mexico since 2006. My dad died in October 19th, 2015. So I had to fly back to Canada to go to my dad's funeral, or the things that go along with that. And by pure coincidence, I Mother Earth were playing at that point. They weren't in 2015. They were still a band, but they weren't really, and still aren't, a touring band. They play shows occasionally, and just by pure coincidence, I Mother Earth was playing in Waterloo, Ontario. They were playing there the night before my dad's funeral. It was on a Saturday. My dad's funeral was on a Sunday. They call these celebrations of life, not really a funeral. And so I thought, I got to go to that. So I drove my dad's old car, his Kia Sportage. I drove that to I was staying with my mother. She lived or still lives in Hamilton. Nobody cares. Nobody knows what I'm talking about, but this is for me. So I drove from Hamilton to Waterloo in my dad's car, and I saw I Mother Earth at a place called Maxwell's in Waterloo. And I have to say, I don't know if it was because of the emotion of being back in Canada. That was the first time I had been back in Canada I'd seen my dad shortly before he died. But I don't visit Canada too often. So maybe it was the emotions of my dad dying and being back in my home country, back in Canada. One of the best concerts I've ever seen. I had such a great time at that concert at Maxwell's in Waterloo, seeing I Mother Earth on, I guess it was October, must have been around 24th or something like that. And now it was not with Edwin, who's the singer on Seen Her in Fish, which I am going to talk about, but Brian Byrne. But so that was my concert history with I Mother Earth. And then I sang and I jumped around and I had a great time at that concert in Waterloo. And so that's my brief concert history with I Mother Earth. And I did buy a shirt at that concert. And I still have it, the only I Mother Earth shirt that I bought. I've lost about 30 pounds since then, so that shirt is gigantic. Otherwise I would have worn it now. Or maybe not. Man, am I getting off track. So I'm going to talk now about I Mother Earth, Seen Her in Fish, the greatest album ever by a Canadian band, or the best Canadian album, or my favorite album by a Canadian band, or my favorite Canadian album ever. However you like to say it, is I Mother Earth. Before I get to the music, I was looking at this earlier, and this was really cool. This was in 1996, this came out. I bought this, I've mentioned this before. I used to always or almost always write the date. So I got that on April 24th, 96. And I'm not sure when it came out. I think I probably bought it right away. I was really anticipating this. Now, if you see, this was one of these interactive CDs, even in 1996. And I'm just going to read this quickly. Getting started. This was when you used to have CD drives, and you would put it into your computer, and it had videos, and you could have links. And this was when the internet was really new in 96. So it says how to get started. This section covers the basic installation instructions for the multimedia portion of the CD. There are more detailed instructions on the CD itself, located in the README file. If you can't access the files when you put the CD in your CD-ROM drive, chances are you need updated software for your CD-ROM drive, which is a pain in the ass when you had to update stuff back then. Oh, I remember those days. It sucked. Call your drive manufacturer for more details, or visit our website, http:// or /www.netmedia.com for information. How to install. Step 1, install QuickTime. Remember QuickTime? And then for Windows 95, which I had, when you insert the disk into your CD-ROM drive, it will open the main menu. From here, you can either run the enhanced program, install QuickTime, or read the README file. After checking the README file, click on the installation icon and follow the on-screen instructions. That was for Windows 95. Now it says, you will need to install QuickTime onto your system once. From now on, just click on the band logo in the main menu to run the multimedia presentation. Step 2, check monitor video card settings. Best video settings are 640 by 480. This video is in is it 2160 or 2140? I can't remember. Huge difference. Step 3, starting the program. Windows, just click once on the I Mother Earth icon. For tech support, you can email blah, 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 or call 310-260-4776. Don't forget, the entire audio CD is on this disc as well. Pop it into a regular CD player and listen just like you would any other CD. There you have it. Enjoy yourself. Those are the instructions on how to do that. But that was pretty cool in 1996. So Earth was ahead of the game. And I've talked also a little bit about packaging of CDs. I talked about some examples of bad packaging was REM, Automatic for the People, Mindfunk, dropped Tesla, The Great Radio Controversy. I didn't like it when bands didn't have lyrics. This CD, in addition to being a CD-ROM, an interactive multimedia CD, had great packaging. This is how a CD should be or should have been back then. It had the lyrics, pretty easy to read. There were black text on white background. It was terrible when you would see gray font on a black background. Very hard to read. So I used to love to. I was 26 at the time in 1996. And back then, even not as much now, I used to love to sit down and listen, especially with headphones, and read along with the lyrics. So getting to this, finally I'm getting to the album after all this time. So the first song is Hello Dave. Another thing I've talked about is filler. To me, Hello Dave is filler. It's just but that's not always bad. It's just an introduction, acoustic bit of, and then Hello Dave. And then that's it. It's like 45 seconds or something. Then it goes into Like a Girl. And I talk always about my favorite songs, which I'll also get to. Like a Girl. Can't think of Straight Line, Beyond the Hill. It seems like a mountain next to an ocean, behind the thrill. Almost in there. If there's a way, I could feel the face of intelligence. I'm a man. I would understand what a good head says. You're not me. You know me. You know me, can't see the forest for all the green. That's an excellent song. Every 30 days a light goes on and brightens my backyard. A yellow dying sun. What is it? A yellow dying sun. I bite my tongue and swallow pride and blood. On some other plane I have become affected, drawn and strange. I'm inclined to blame my mother for dressing me like a girl. I think I was missing something there, but I think that's the main part. Strange lyrics, but I love them. And I should say, I mentioned earlier, Christian Tana, the drummer, wrote the lyrics. One of my favorite, I don't know if songwriters, but lyricists ever. He wrote amazing lyrics. So yeah, Like a Girl is a fantastic song. One More Astronaut is next. Now, One More Astronaut was the lead single and video from this album. I guess it came out if the album came out in April 96, the video must have come out probably in maybe early April or March. I was obsessed with that song and that video, despite the video being short. They used to edit those. The song is maybe 5.5 minutes, and I think people's attention spans, even back then, were considered to be too short to have a 5.5 minute song or video. So they had like a video edit of the song, and it was maybe a minute short. They cut out a big chunk of the middle section, kind of like a percussion instrumental section in the middle. But man, that video was on Much Music all the time. That song, if you lived in Canada, you couldn't get away from that song, and I loved it. It's one of the songs that I've never been sick of. Some songs, you like it when you first hear it, and then you get tired of it. I've talked about this many times. Enter Sandman. Nobody wants to hear that song again. It's not a bad song, but it's enough already. Crazy Train, Rock and Roll All Night. A lot of these classic rock songs. I never got tired of One More Astronaut, and still I listen to it, probably, I don't know how many times in a year, but I still listen to One More Astronaut many times a year and never got tired of it. Amazing song, really cool video it was too. Fantastic. Next was track 4, Another Sunday. Sunday, always hard to get to sleep when weird noises are implying threats. On cold sheets I sweat on any other day. It's all rest and flowers, a long night of nothing, in the morning some coffee. Great song too. I'm out of my head. That was what they said. That was what they said. There was no way I could ever trust again. There's something fills you up, and then it takes control. I won't go on. Love that one. 3 Days Old. That is noteworthy, and all these songs are great. 3 Days Old. Alex Lifeson played, from Rush, of course. He played guitar in this song. I don't know if he played. I think he just played the solo. To me, it sounds. I'm not a big Rush fan, but to me that song sounds like Alex Lifeson. Maybe it's one of these, they call it, I think, a retro bias, like when you only learn something after the fact, you kind of go back and say, yeah, I knew that. And to me it sounds like Alex Lifeson, and not just Alex Lifeson, the instrumental part that goes along with the solo, it sounds like Rush. It's quite different from the rest of the song. Too young to find the horses. Too young fighting causes. I get overwhelmed and I feel I'm 3 days old. You and I are not the same. You like everything. Arms wave in a spin. That's a great song. And again, I apologize for the singing. Used to Be Alright. This was a huge song too. This was played on Much Music all the time. Radio, I think, not as much as One More Astronaut, but a very and that song was also shortened. The video was also shortened for that. It's pretty good to wind the way that we looked at 10 to 8 in the morning, just talking, still awake at dawn, and do drinking, thinking always. Remembering the laughs, the time we got high for 7 days down in New Orleans. Seems like no one else knew. We were just the moon and stars, moon and sun and stars. Before the heat burned it away. And then, what was the second part after? The part after that I really liked was no time or presence of mind to wonder why. Another shame the way the city smells worse on a hot day in August. 2 p.m. We're at the forest. Good move was a move where the shakers break our hearts. Something like that. Every song so far is like top notch. The whole album is. What was after that? Shortcut to Moncton. Shortcut to Moncton was one that at the time I was never really too much into. I often like really long songs. I've talked about this too. To me, Shortcut to Moncton at the time was long but not very interesting. It kind of, I thought, meandered. I would say now it's maybe my favorite song on this album. I haven't talked about my single favorite, but it might be Shortcut to Moncton. Over the last, I don't know how many years, 10 years or something, I've really grown to appreciate Shortcut to Moncton. And when they played it live, when I saw them in I think it was, when I saw them in Waterloo, when they play that song live, they it's a 7 or 8 minute song, and they jam it out to, I think, 11, 12, maybe 14 minutes. Fantastic song. Really, it's got everything. It's got a really nice, that's a very summery, feel-good, psychedelic, happy, not happy, like in a pop happy sense, but like almost makes you feel good to be alive, is Shortcut to Moncton. I think lyrically maybe similar to Used to Be Alright. You and your friends drink, laugh, and pass out. And it has a very quiet part in the middle, and then goes back to kind of and I love the lyric, in my head I can see the tidal wave of disappointment. See the light shining over there. Next song is Pisser. That goes back to getting, they were a little bit kind of light and psychedelic and happy and summery in Shortcut to Moncton. Then Pisser was probably the most, they're not a heavy band, but I would say Pisser is the most aggressive, or the heaviest song on this album. Cool riff. Lost all my friends, pulling down my pants just to say hi. and I'm still alive. Without a tan, tripping naked man through the forest. Who like me has fallen. Right into a river of grace, drinking from a river of fine wine, just to ease my mind. And I like that one too. It seems I've had a lifelong head cold. Maybe it's COVID. Pisser is fantastic. Raspberry, this was another one there was a video for, and I think that one was also shortened. There was an edit for the video. I Mother Earth songs were a little bit on the lengthy side. I think most of their songs are 5-6 minutes, so they had to cut them for the videos and for radio. And I think Raspberry was another one that was cut. Held in Hands, A Warm Cup of Skin, Always Taken In by Peers and Friends. Over the years, now I know I'm not like everyone. And in this head, I see the ground you came from, unknown and undug, from where you were staying, in a backyard bath until we came together. Raspberry in my hand. Feel alright, but I don't know if I am. No, I can't change what I am. I know I can say, I'm not going to say the whole lyrics, but I love that. Every song, there hasn't been one blemish on this album so far. It's just perfect. Greatest Canadian album ever. What comes next? Raspberry. There's a photo of the band. And I should say too, great, I'm not a musician, but Jag Tana, he should be considered a guitar god. He's up there with anybody. Amazing guitarist. Not a shredder, but just an amazing player. Songburst in Delirium. That was one I didn't get into too much at the time, but over the years, similar to Shortcut to Moncton, I've become a big fan of it. It's a little bit longer, and the thing maybe that I love about this was the lyric, and I'm going to Mexico where there's nothing but the sun. And it's true, there's nothing but the sun in Mexico. And then the part after that, it's kind of a little bit crazy, and then, but the sun, and then it goes very, very quiet. Total Jane's Addiction. It doesn't sound like Jane's Addiction, but that part of the quiet part, or that goes quiet into Songburst and Delirium, totally sounds like Jane's Addiction, like something Jane's Addiction would have written or played. I'm going to Mexico where there's nothing but the sun. Next was Sense of Henry. Another one that it took me years to get into. Sense of Henry is an excellent song. The first 3 seconds of that song are, I think, identical, almost note for note of Raspberry, I think. And I don't know if that was what turned me off, but I love Sense of Henry now, and I especially love at the end. There's a little whistling thing. It's almost inaudible, but it reminds me of the Old Spice theme. I don't know, but Sense of Henry is excellent. And then the last song is Earth, Sky, and Sea. It should be like this: the letter C, not it's meant to represent the sea, like El Mar. And Yo no voy. There's a little bit of Spanish in that song. It's another one of these big songs. I'm not leaving in a way, sweet Earth boy. Another big, I don't like to say epic, but it's a very grand song, Earth, Sky, and Sea, which there are several of. Earth, Sky, and Sea, Songburst and Delirium, and I would say Shortcut to Moncton. And my favorite of this album, it's hard to pick just one, but maybe over the years it's become Shortcut to Moncton. But it's really hard not to say that it's One More Astronaut, even though that was the hit single. I can make an argument for just about, I would say, any song on this album as being my favorite. I would say the only one that never was my favorite was Sense of Henry, although as I said, I do love it now. So there you go. What do you think about that? I Mother Earth, Scenery and Fish. Greatest Canadian album ever. My personal favorite Canadian album ever. They're kind of I don't know what's happening with them now. Edwin came back to I Mother Earth several years ago, I think in 2016. That Waterloo show I mentioned, that was the last show that they played with Brian Byrne. Edwin came back shortly after that, the singer. And they announced on their Facebook page, I think it must have been 2 years ago, that they had new music coming soon, and who knows what happened with that. You can't blame COVID for that. So I wish I Mother Earth would do something there. They just announced a show, I think about a week ago, that they're playing a show somewhere, I think in Ontario. Now living in Mexico, the fact that I Mother Earth is back playing live and doing shows doesn't really do much for me. So I'd be much more excited to hear new I Mother Earth music. But until then, I'll have to listen to Scenery and Fish, which I always do, and some other I Mother Earth albums. Blue, Green, Orange I love, and Dig I love, Quicksilver, Meat Dream, So. But until they have something new, I'll be content with this. And hey, do you know what? Yes, I love this album.